In this video, I'm going to show you how to install fonts on Ubuntu Mate 18.04. Now this will probably work in the earlier versions of Ubuntu Mate, and hopefully after you watch this video, if you're watching it later or in the future, that it's working on the newer versions. And I'm assuming it will work on Ubuntu and the other derivatives. Now I've already downloaded some fonts from the internet for time's sake, and I downloaded them and they downloaded to my downloads folder. Now when you're downloading fonts, they're going to either be TrueType fonts or OTF fonts. And I'm not going to go in the specifics of the differences between those, but both will work fine on your system. If you want to know more about those, I will put the link to my website at the bottom of the video if you're watching it on YouTube. Now when you download fonts, you're going to either download them by a zip file or a compressed file, and they may not always have the zip extension, or you can see here is a TrueType font. Now I'm going to show you, if you download them with the TTF extension or the OTF extension, you can double click the font that you've downloaded. You can wait a moment or two, and if the button that says install, if it is dimmed and says installed, then that particular font is already installed on your system. In this case, as you can see, I don't have this Old English regular font installed on my system. So to install it on my system, I just simply click the install button. Wait a few moments, and as you can see, it installed in the background. Now here it's dimmed, you can't click it anymore, but it is now installed on my system. I can go ahead and close it, and if I were to open up an application program, I would have the choice of Old English regular font. Another way of installing is by downloading a zipped up or compressed file. You can right click and say extract here or extract it to a location, and then look for the file itself and install it as we did here. Or you can double click the compressed file and you can see the contents in the compressed file. Here is a text file with the information about that font. Or I can double click the font and it will open in my font viewer just as it did when I downloaded the font into my folder. Here I've got the choice, and as you can see here, the font viewer or the Mate font viewer allows you to look at what the font looks like, going through the small letters, the uppercase letters, the numbers, and you can see a little sentence from the small fonts to larger fonts. Here I'm going to install it. It's the same process I did when I installed or download the individual TTF extension file. I've already installed it. I can close it, and I can close this. Now that was easy to install one particular file. Let's say that I've downloaded a bunch of files from the internet, and here I have a folder called multiple fonts. Now if I were to go, now as you can see, I don't have that many. It wouldn't take long to double click each of these and hit install. But there's another way that you can install multiple files. Let's say that I downloaded 30 up to 75 or 100 fonts, and I wanted to install them all at once. It would be very cumbersome if I were to go through and install them individually with a large number of fonts. So there's an easier way to do that. To start with, I'm going to separate my screen, and you'll see why in just a moment. I'm going to bring this over on this side, and I'm going to open up my Caja File Manager, and I'm going to go back to the file system, starting at my hard drive, and I'm going to look for the folder USR for user. Then I'm going to click on the share folder. I'm going to scroll down until I find the folder fonts, and they're in alphabetical order. As you can see, here is my fonts folder. Now I don't want to just double click into that folder. If so, I can't install these fonts or drag these fonts into this folder. I have to be an administrator. To do that, I have to right click on the fonts folder, open as an administrator. When I click on that open as administrator, it will prompt me for my password. When I put in my password, I can then change by adding or deleting the contents in my fonts folder. Here I'm going to bring my fonts folder. As you can see, I am a super user. A super user allows me to change or delete or add to this folder. Now here I want to take these fonts and put them in this folder. I'm going to select them all, and now I'm going to drag them into this folder here, or copy them to this folder, and as you can see, they're highlighted over here. And here you can see some OTF files that you heard me mention or TTF files. That's the two different types of files that's commonly across the internet for you to download and install on your Linux machine. I'm now ready to close these folders. I will leave this one open so I can show you the file names. I will go back into my Caja file manager. I'll go into documents. Now here I've got my new fonts installed on my system. These are the fonts that I've installed. So when I double click this document, it will open LibreOffice, and instead of me taking the time to write the names of each of those fonts and select them, I went ahead and pre-did this on another computer that I had these fonts. So as you can see, the Adventure font all the way down to the Varsity font. If I go, there's the Adventure font, the Adventure Hollow font, the Bleeding Cowboys, the Christmas Lights Outdoor, and the Christmas Lights Indoor. I've got them all the way down to the Varsity Regular. So these are the files or the fonts that I installed into my shared folder. Now when you install them into the user share fonts folder, this creates a system-wide fonts, meaning that I could log out of this computer, someone else could log into this computer, and since I installed them as a super user into this particular drive or fonts folder, I can now, or any user that uses this computer will have access to these particular fonts. That's how easy it is to install multiple files or individual files on your Ubuntu Mate or Linux operating system. Hopefully this has been some help to you, and have a great day.